Alrighty, welcome back to another video. So this one is chapter 6, cost behavior chart, as the breakdown says. So it's on page 29 of the Procopy. So it's this really weird, confusing chart. So at first I thought it was really confusing to fill in, but it's actually really simple. So I wrote to the side. So like my first video, I just did it with you guys, but I'm just like, that takes too much time and I have to like put clips together. So this one's just gonna be a run through or step by step of what I did. So first off, we should memorize this chart. Basically, I just like wrote out an index card and I'll probably memorize it later. But basically it means that in total, variable costs changes in total, and then variable cost per unit stays the same. As for fixed costs, in total, it stays the same, and for fixed costs per unit, it changes. So an example of this would be, let's see, fixed costs. So like you have rent each month. So rent is $100 each month, but depending how long, like if you stay there for a day, the whole month, that changes. So, oh my God. Okay, in total, fixed costs, the total, so the total rent, 500 or 100 per month stays the same per unit. So like, for example, per day, if you stay there for 1 day, then you're only getting that much, how much that's worth, something like that. I don't know, you can read about it in Procopy. Wow. So let's see, Okay, so the stuff in green is what's given to you in this crappy chart. So they give you the units, they give you 150,000 in variable costs, and then they give you $4.50 in fixed costs, and that's the only two things that they give you. Okay, so the first thing I did was, using this given information, you can divide your total variable costs by the units, as I did here, and you get 2.5 variable cost per unit, which I wrote here. And then the next thing you do, given the information, is 4.5 fixed cost per unit times how many units you have, which in this case is 80,000, and it gives you 360,000 total fixed costs. So you write it there. And the reason why I wrote it here and here, if you go back to your table, fixed costs in total stays the same, so you can write it for all of them. And then for variable cost per unit, if you go for here, it's the same, so that's why I wrote it. So using those two, you can fill out like most of the chart already. You can find, since it's, oh, the next thing, it's in yellow, okay. So now you have these rates and whatnot. So you get 2.5 variable cost per unit. So if you want to find the other variable costs, since you have this one already, you times it by the units. So 2.5 times 80,000 units gives you 200,000, and then 2.5 times 100,000 units gives you 250,000. So I wrote that there. And then the next thing you can do is 360,000 fixed costs, since it's the same, divided by your units to find fixed cost per unit. So basically you could work backwards and figure out how they got this. So if 360,000 divided by 80,000 units gives you fixed cost per unit of 4.5, so you just do the same for the other ones. You would get 6 here, and then you would get 3.6 or 3.5. I think I wrote it wrong. It's, oopsie, I think it's 3.6. Yeah, I think it's 3.6 because I wrote it wrong on my Procopy. I don't know anymore. It's something. So, so that's that. So you have your whole chart filled out. Oh, you just add up variable cost, fixed cost to get your total cost, variable cost per unit plus your fixed cost per unit to get your total cost per unit. So I just wrote that. And then it asks you to do a contribution margin income statement, which is also the same as variable costing or direct income statement. So it's the new income statement we learned. The old one was sales minus cost of goods sold gives you gross profit and yada, yada, yada. This one is sales minus variable costs over it gives you contribution margin minus fixed costs gives you net income. So it tells you that they sold 90,000 units and your selling price of each unit was $7.50. So you just multiply those two to get your revenue of 675,000, and then to get variable costs, you use your units, variable cost per unit, which is the same, times it by the new units of 90,000 gives you 225,000, gives you that. You subtract those two, you get contribution margin of 450,000, you minus your fixed costs, and since fixed costs in total stay the same, you just bring it down, subtract that, and you get 90,000. So there you go, that's how they do that problem. I'm sure she could change it up and she could ask, like they could give you fixed cost per unit and you just multiply them by the units to get whatever total fixed cost is and then you minus that, but yeah, she could change some things up. That's pretty much the cost behavior chart, just memorize that. Alrighty, on to the next problem.